And now we move on to the next one. We've got Erisson Fereira taking on Jesus Santos Aguilar. And this is kind of a weird one, because I looked into this one and I'm seeing a lot of people picking Jesus Santos Aguilar. And I don't know what the odds are because I record these on the Tuesday night, actually after the week before. So I'm recording this before the odds are even out. But I'm thinking Jesus Santos Aguilar might actually be the favourite in this matchup, but I am going to be picking Erisson Fereira to win the fight. It's somewhat of a striker versus grappler matchup because Santos Aguilar will definitely be looking to initiate wrestling exchanges, and I feel like Erisson Fereira is going to probably favour taking this fight or keeping this fight on the feet. You know what I mean? We're just going to look into it right now. Only 42% picking Fereira on Tapology. Maybe that line flicks because only 183 votes, but more people picking Santos Aguilar. I don't mind it, but if you actually look at the level of competition that this guy's been fighting, it is very high level. He recently beat a guy that was 6-1, 8-3, 6-2, and then before they just fighting guys that were 5-2 and 2-0. And at that time, he would have been like 2-1 taking on a guy that was 2-0. So I don't blame that level of competition whatsoever. But I do think Erisson Fereira is going to win this one here. If you guys don't recognize the name, he's actually fought on Dana White's Contender Series in the past. And he took on Kilan. And Kilan's now doing some pretty big things in the Road to UFC tournament that's going on. Kilan won the first round of Road to UFC. And then the second round will be after UFC 280 the day after. Before that, though, he hasn't been fighting great competition. But he did beat a guy that was 9-4 before Dana White's Contender Series. And the fight against Kilan was super close. And Kilan, as I said, he's doing great things right now. I believe he got a super fast finish in his first round, in his first fight. But first fight at Road to UFC. But yeah, this is a tough fight to kind of score because if you actually look into it, Kilan in the first round knocks down Erisson Fereira, lands more strikes, so he wins that round. And then the next two rounds were scored to Erisson Fereira, even though he landed less and threw less as well. He landed 10 of 37 significant strikes. 18 against 18 of 41, and then he landed 8 of 29 significant strikes against 10 of 31, but he did have a little bit more control time as he did shoot for a takedown and get it. But it was a weird fight, you know what I mean? It was a close fight, it could have gone either way, and I think that Erisson Fereira is probably going to win this one over Jesus Santos Aguilar, as I just said. Jesus, what he brings is he's a good grappler. On the feet, he's not, I wouldn't say he's the greatest striker in the world, but he doesn't mind striking. I would say he's definitely the better jiu-jitsu artist out of the two for sure. Most of his wins come in by submission, and if they don't, he wins them by decision. But what I don't necessarily like about him is when he shoots for a takedown, he doesn't really set them up too much. He kind of shoots from out of range, I guess you could say, or out of like wrestling range. He does have a win over Edgar Chairez, who recently fought on Dana White's Contender Series as well, which is a pretty good look now because Edgar Chairez had a really good fight. But it's just a weird one. I think he's just, his range in general just isn't that great. Like, he doesn't have the greatest range on the feet. He doesn't really have the greatest range when he's looking to wrestle as well. It's kind of a weird one. He's got great wins on paper. They really are great wins, and he's a guy that you can get excited about. But I do think Erisson Fereira is just going to have a somewhat favourable matchup in this one here. I think he's going to be able to defend the takedowns of Aguilar, as he defended 5 of 7 takedowns from Kilun, who is a pretty good grappler himself. And he brings a pretty exciting style to the game. You know what I mean? He does land pretty heavy shots. He does not really throw too much volume as he did in the Kilun, but he was throwing and he was landing with decent power as well. His takedown defense isn't the greatest at all, but he did defend a lot of takedowns against Kilun, which is a pretty good look, and I think that he should be able to defend against Aguilar, who does, as I said, kind of shoot from far out, which is a weird sort of situation, really. I think Fereira wins the fight on the feet. I think it probably does go the distance unless he finds a KO at some point, but I think Fereira is going to keep the fight on the feet, win another decision. You've never seen anyone win 2 fights on Dana White's Contender Series and not get a contract, so I think if Erisson Fereira wins a decision over Aguilar, he will get into the UFC, because the UFC needs flyweights anyway. I feel like the winner of this fight in general is just going to get a contract. As I said, though, I'm super impressed with the competition of Santos Aguilar, but I'm just not super impressed with the style that he fights. He struggles to kind of just find his range in general, and against a fast starter like Erisson Fereira, I think Erisson Fereira is going to start too fast and throw just a little bit more volume, throw a little bit more power, and just win on the feet. I think he's going to defend the takedowns as well and win that way. I'm going to go Erisson Fereira by decision, potentially an underdog. As I said, I don't know the odds right now, but I think that there's a good chance he is.